WING 1410 Dayton, Dayton's ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
Today, partly cloudy for most of the day. A few flurries are possible. High of 34. Tonight, some clouds in the evening, giving way to mainly clear skies overnight. Low of 23 degrees. Upcoming for your weekend. Sunshine and some clouds on Saturday. High of 48. And Sunday, morning clouds giving way to sunshine for the afternoon. A high of 56. I'm Adam Zellick for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Do you or any of your family members, neighbors, or friends own a property that you just want to be done with it? If so, call TurboTrack Realty today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. Would it be convenient for you to take what you wanted and leave the rest behind? Great, I'll buy it. Call 614-470-2000. That's 614-470-2000.
A new year and a new career. KTH Parts Industries has immediate openings. Second shift production associates and equipment technicians. Material handling experience is a plus. This is an excellent new opportunity that offers an attractive benefit package, medical, dental, 401k, attendance bonus, and a new competitive wage starting at $19.83 per hour with annual increases. KTH is hosting open interviews Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. through 3 p.m. Visit kth.net. KTH is an equal opportunity employer.
Hi, Greg McAfee here from McAfee Heating and Air. Inflation is hurting families. Gas and food prices continue to soar, but skilled trade jobs are paying at an all-time high rate. Why keep working for less? If you are experienced in HVAC, have a great attitude, love serving people, and enjoy working hard, apply today at mcair.com. That's mcair.com.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it is officially now
Friday.
Favorite day of the week. Favorite day of the week. Welcome in, everybody. Kenner and Kev live with you here on a Friday. Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. I'm Justin Kenner. He's Kev Nash. Mr. Kev Nash, welcome.
What up, dog?
Excited for today because, yes, it is my favorite day. It's a Friday, but also we got Cap or No Cap coming up. We have Kev Nash brings you the Hurry Up coming up. We got some Reds content for today. And look, I know that may sound like a bad thing, but I'm here to tell you that I may be Mr. Negative. But there's been a lot of things that have been brought to my attention about last year. It was a bad year for the Reds. Yes, a lot of self-inflicted wounds, don't get me wrong. But there were some things that worked against the Reds, and I'm not talking about ownership. We'll get to that coming up around the corner. But again, we welcome you in here on a Friday. Kenner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio. Kev Nash, it's time, of course, to do what we always do on a Friday, and that's kick it off playing our favorite game.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment. Cap or no cap?
Cap or no cap? Mr. Kev Nash, please. I pretend that this is for the listeners, but explain the rules for our listeners, and this is just so I know what the hell's going on.
So for the uncool people out there, cap means lie. No cap means truth.
So, and just because I say something, it doesn't actually mean that I know what the heck I'm talking about. Now, you're probably like, just operate as it's any other part of the show. Cap or no cap? We throw out a sports statement, and basically it's true or false, but just I want to be cool. So it's cap or no cap. So there we go. All right, Kev, here we go right off the bat. Cap or no cap? ESPN's Todd McShay has 3 Buckeyes being taken in the first round after the release of his latest mock draft. Cap or no cap, 3 Buckeyes will be selected in the first round. Is Todd McShay correct? Cap or no cap?
No cap. Easy, breezy, easy. Absolutely. Going to be CJ Stroud. Then it's going to be Paris Johnson. And then it's going to be JSN. Easy as that.
Is that easy?
It's that easy.
I'm going to say cap. I'm very concerned about everything I keep reading about Jackson Smith and Jigma. Now, there's a very selfish reason why I'm hoping everything is true about my Cleveland Browns do not have a first-round pick. So if, for whatever reason, the reports are true that there are a lot of general managers and a lot of scouts and teams out there that are not so high on Jackson Smith and Jigma, and the reason this is being brought up is because Todd McShay has him as a late first round, potentially dropping to the second round. I don't know all the reasons. Obviously, there's enough reasons being floated around out there, but this is that time of the year where we start hearing about character issues or, at-home issues or, who knows. Bottom line is at the end of the day, it's going to come down to sometimes you think about those, issues, but then it's like, well, we kind of like what the Bengals are doing with Jamar Chase, and we love what the Eagles are doing. They bring in A.J. Brown, but they also have Devontae Smith. So, he looks pretty good. So, I still think there's a very good chance all three of those guys go in the first round, but Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm just not 1,000,000% confident that that's going to be the case. So for right now, I'm going to say Cap, but there is a selfish reason. I'm hoping he drops into the second round for my Cleveland Browns.
Don't hold your breath.
I'm not going to hold my breath. I will not hold my breath.
Because as soon as they turn on that film and they go about, oh, that's right. Yeah, he's good. He's really good. He was the best receiver on a team that had 2 first-round picks last year. So he's going to go in the first round.
Funny how that works, nonetheless. By the way, Kenner and Cav, we are live on the Justin Kenner Show Facebook page, as well as ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel. That's where you can watch the show live and interact with us live. So head there now, and in the comment section, you can participate in Cap or No Cap. We'll take your comments and your reactions, drag them into the show. Your profile picture will be visible for all 5 people on Facebook and YouTube hanging out with us. So take advantage of that. Cap or No Cap, 3 Buckeyes will be taken in the first round of the NFL draft, according to ESPN's Todd McShay. In his latest mock draft that he released, obviously CJ Stroud, going to be taken, the first Buckeye taken off the board. Paris Johnson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba are the 3 Buckeyes that could potentially go in the first round. I just don't get it. I don't understand what all the Jackson Smith and Jigba slander is. Someone said the other day, well, Kenner, you bashed him all season. Kev, I don't think I've ever bashed Jackson Smith and Jigba. I've questioned, and by the way, questioning this is not questioning his work ethic or anything. I've questioned whether he shut it down, not quit on his team. I questioned whether there was a certain point of the season where he said, you know what, I've battled back from this injury once, twice, 3 times. We got the combine here in about 5 months. I really don't need to risk getting, re-injuring this already aggravated injury again. That I questioned, but that wasn't me questioning his work ethic or who he is as a player. But it sounds like GMs are using that against him. And the reason I would call cap on that, I would call cap on that is because we see guys who put business first every year, and GMs can appreciate business. So I don't know, but we'll see what ends up happening nonetheless. Cap or no cap, we continue to move on. I know we talked a little bit about Justin Fields on yesterday's show, actually a couple times throughout this week. Cap or no cap, Kev, Justin Fields will be the Chicago Bears starting quarterback for the 2023 season. Cap or no cap?
No cap. It's going to be starting quarterback because they're not going to trade for Lamar Jackson. They're going to ultimately trade back, but they won't be trading a young quarterback for an established quarterback because it's just not the Bears' way. When have we ever seen them make a splash move like that? Like never. So I'm going to say he's going to be their starting quarterback. They're going to try to put some guys around him. They got a lot of money to spend in free agency. They got a lot of draft picks. Why not put all you can into this young quarterback and see what he can do? So I'm going to go with no cap.
I say that will be cap. I'm going to say he will not be the starting quarterback for the Bears. Not because I think Justin Fields is a bad quarterback. I just think that if the Bears had the number 11 pick in the draft or the number 8 pick in the draft, this is a no-brainer. He would be their quarterback next year. But it is because you have CJ Stroud and Bryce Young sitting right there at number 1. It is because you have $100 million in cap space. It is because you have a slew of other draft picks that you've been able to acquire because when you were unloading all of your talented pieces of what you had, you accrued all these draft picks. So the Bears, they're actually the most fortunate team of all teams heading into this offseason because they could decide if they want to start a rebuild or build around a rookie quarterback and go all in for the next couple of years, or they can trade for a veteran quarterback and have all these resources to bring in every weapon imaginable. My thing with the Bears is at some point, like you said, that's not how they characteristically operate. Mm-hmm. But at some point, the Bengals operated a certain way that they had to finally say, okay, we're not operating this way anymore. I think to do things you've never done, you have to do things that you've also never done before. And I think they have to change up a lot of things. So I'm going to say that right now, because they have that number 1 overall pick, they just have way too many options. And this Buckeye fans won't like this, to settle. And I think Justin Fields, you're almost settling for, because I'm not accusing you of this, but I'm just going to throw it out there. I think you're giving him the benefit of the doubt because he's a Buckeye. How wrong am I?
I think he's been solid. I just think that he's been out there by himself because the way he played in high school and in college is nothing how he played in the NFL. He was not a runner at Ohio State. He was not a runner in high school. The only time has been a runner, it was his freshman year at Georgia and in the NFL.
Yep.
And he wasn't even a runner his rookie year in the NFL. He turned to a runner his second year in the NFL.
Yep.
So this label that he's getting put at like he's a runner, no, he's a runner out of necessity because we have nothing. I have to do something to try to win the football game. So I think that if they go ahead and put some players around him, then we can get a true judgment of who he is. Because if they try to roll out there with Bryce Young, who is 5'10 and a half, 185 pounds, and Justin Fields was getting broken in half, and he's 6'3", 200 something pounds, what do you think going to happen to good old Bryce Young? The exact same thing that happens to every other small quarterback. He's not, Bryce Young's not quote unquote thick like a Russell Wilson, who's a short quarterback, or even a Kyler Murray. He's short and skinny. So if they're going to go that route, that's going to end up bad for everybody involved.
Yeah, and keep in mind, and to be fair, yesterday you said he was just a guy, so it's not like you're overhyping Justin. You just want to see them kind of see it out, like let him kind of build there. Nonetheless, I'm fascinated by this because the Bears, like I said, they have the number 1 overall pick, $100 million of cap space, a ton of draft picks. They can go get a veteran if they wanted to. They could build around Justin Fields if they want to. They can go get a rookie quarterback. Like, they're actually in a very, very good situation, but sometimes that could be dangerous because when you screw up, they're going to be more critical of you than any other time because you had so many options to get out of jail free, basically, and they may not do that. So we'll see what ends up happening. Cap or no cap on Facebook. Keith Tolliver chimes in, Cap. He says no cap on both involving the Buckeyes. If you're just tuning in, the first one was 3 Buckeyes will be taken in the first round. Cap or no cap, of course, a lot of the mock drafts have C.J. Stroud, Paris Johnson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, but the caveat being Jackson Smith and Jigba is floating between the first and second round in a lot of mock drafts for whatever reason. Adam Selzer, he kind of chimes in regarding the general manager and some of the other guys chiming in on Jackson Smith and Jigba. It's always funny that NFL teams can conduct their business, but when a player or prospect does it, they find an issue with it.
Oh, yes. Yes. And this is part of their business, too. I mean, Keith Byers talks about it all the time about how Buddy Ryan said he was damaged goods.
And medical reject.
Medical reject for Keith Byers. And that was part of their business to try to get him to fall so they could get him at a better pick. Like, it's their business. So, Jackson Smith was handling his business by shutting it down.
Cap or no cap? Mark Smith on Facebook, Kev, he says they're going to trade the number 1 pick, so no cap, talking about the Chicago Bears. The second one was Justin Fields will be the starting quarterback for the Bears. I say cap. Kev says no cap, and Mark Smith says no cap as well. So there you go. Continuing down the list, last thing here for a football-related topic, Kev, a little bit of college football, bouncing off of what we talked a little bit about yesterday. Ohio State, Alabama, they will play in 2025. They will keep their non-con scheduled matchup series on the books moving forward. This, of course, coming after Ohio State knocked off their series with Washington. We talked about it yesterday, but cap or no cap, Ohio State, Alabama, it will happen in 2025.
No cap.
Oh, hold up. 2027 and 28. Okay. Wrong dates. My bad.
No cap. Neither one of these teams wants to have that look on them, that look of, oh, they scared of us. Nobody wants to have that. Neither program wants that because, believe it or not, that stuff matters in recruiting. Let's say there's a hot shot, whatever, safety that's being recruited by both teams. You don't think that one of those coaches is going to say, hey, man, they were scared to play us because we're that good. That's going to be used on the recruiting trail. That's not going to be good talking points on the message boards and everything like that. No cap. They will play that game. They will play both games.
Yesterday, I would have said cap. Today, I say no cap because Kev actually won me over with his argument yesterday. You're right, though. The egos involved.
From the fan bases to the coaches to the ADs to the universities, there's an ego. They're not going to back this down. They can't do that.
And let's be clear, both probably want to cancel. Both probably want, now that there are, especially with Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC, UCLA, USC going to the Big Ten, big time programs that these two teams now have to face. Yeah. On top of having to put together a competitive non-con, both are saying we don't really need to put together a competitive non-con. I think both want to say, all right, we don't really need Ohio State anymore. We needed Ohio State with the 14 playoff in case we lost a game in the SEC portion of the season. We can get the benefit of the doubt from our not. Now with the 12-team playoff, Ohio State, Alabama, they would have to lose 3 games to be for sure knocked out. 2 games, I don't think they're knocked out to the playoff with 12 teams at this point. So because of that, you would rather have 2 losses in Big Ten or SEC play than waste a loss in the non-con, which is why I think both won out. But I agree with Kev. I'm going to say no cap because both won out, but which one's going to call the other one to say they won out? Because whoever does that loses. So therefore, I agree with Kev. No cap. It will happen.
I wonder how much the buyout would be because you found the buyout for 500,000 for Washington. Would they hit $1 million?
And I think some of that, I was reading a little bit more last night about that. The buyout wasn't to Washington necessarily. A lot of it had to do with some of the TV contract money and stuff too, because, some of these, whatever these networks are, they're going to be bidding on that matchup.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what ends up happening as far as that is concerned. But that is our football portion of the cap or no cap. Keith Tolliver says no cap as well. And by the way, I'm not disappointed that they won't cancel that. I want to see Ohio State at Texas in a couple years. I can't wait to see the Buckeyes at South Bend next year or this year. This year, it's coming up this year. But can you imagine Nick Saban pacing up and down at the shoe? That's wild to me. That's why I wish. I mean, there's nothing against Ryan Day, but there's can you imagine Urban Meyer versus Nick Saban at the shoe? That's why Ryan Day, awesome, fantastic. I'm not anti-Ryan Day. I'm just saying that legendary match. But to see Nick Saban pacing the sideline at the shoe is going to be a sight to behold if that happens. That's for sure. Okay, moving on, Kev, a little basketball, NBA. We talked about it yesterday. Kevin Love and the Cleveland Cavaliers are they're working on a buyout. The Kevin Love era with Cleveland, of course, going back to when he was traded from Minnesota for Andrew Wiggins and a bunch of other pieces, of course, to come to Cleveland to help LeBron win a championship in Cleveland with Kyrie Irving. Well, that era has officially come to an end, and they're working on a buyout. Cap or no cap, Kev? Kevin Love will rejoin LeBron James and be a Laker by this time next week.
Cap. Kevin Love is going to the Suns. To the Suns. He's going to go to the Suns.
He looks like a Suns player. Yeah. Oh, Dan Marley looking guy. Yeah.
Look, man, he is in a position right now where it's really all about winning. It's not about the money. He's made a ton of money. The Lakers are in the 13th spot. Why would you go there? Why don't you go to somebody that's on their way up or a potentially team that you could see winning the championship? So I see Kevin Love with the Suns or the Warriors. I would lean more towards the Suns.
I think wherever he goes, his number one priority is going to be his days of being that big brute of a rebounder. He's lost so much weight. He's not that same guy he was back in Minnesota,
right?
Which was a long time ago. But when he was with Minnesota, he was a much bigger build. He was a guy putting up, like I told you about, every time I'd watch SportsCenter or whatever, it'd be Dwight Howard having a 20-20 night, and guess who was also having 20-20 nights? Kevin Love was eating 20-20 nights. Those days are behind him, but he still can be an effective rebounder. He's actually not terrible of a passer, but they need bigs who can spread the floor and shoot. And I think that he actually has a ton of fits everywhere. I mean, he could fit in with the Lakers.
Yeah.
But this is about, the Lakers, when you start prioritizing championships, Kevin Love, if you have a chance to pick where you're going to go, your loyalty to LeBron may be one thing, but a chance to win a chip one more time before you call it a career, Phoenix or Golden State makes a lot of sense. Dallas to a certain extent as well, but I think Phoenix or Golden State. So the cap or no cap was Kevin Love will rejoin LeBron James and be a Laker by this time next week. I say cap. I think he will be a Sun or a Golden State Warrior. I actually have Golden State in my list, but Kev convinced me of the Suns. Wow, that's 2 for 2. You've convinced me. Yeah,
Look at me.
Yeah, there you go. All right, cap or no cap. Moving on, Kev. Let's keep with the Cleveland Cavaliers a little bit under the association. So with the Nets blowing their roster up, moving on from Kyrie, they moved on from Kyrie. He broke up with them. And they got dumped twice in 1 week by their 2 star players. Tough go for the Nets. However, they did come out, I think, pretty damn good.
They did.
They came out very well considering the circumstances. But with that happening, and now last night, another top team in the East, Giannis Antetokounmpo potentially spraining that wrist, that could play a huge role on how these final couple months in 20-plus games go to close out the regular season. Giannis sprained his right wrist, Kev. The Nets blew up their roster. This opens the door for the Cavs big time in the East. Cap or no cap, the Cleveland Cavaliers will be a top 3 seed in the East heading into the playoffs. Cap or no cap?
Cap. I think their ceiling is a 4 seed. Said that back when they got Donovan Mitchell. We had Freddie Coleman on the show. I said they would be a 4 seed ultimately, and I think that's what they'll be. I think it'll be Boston, Bucks, Sixers, Cavs.
I'm going to say no cap on this one.
Okay.
I know they got thumped the other night by Philadelphia. I know they got thumped the other night by Philadelphia. They did come back. They only lost by 6, but they were down by 30.
Yeah.
They got thumped. Now, to be clear, the 76ers, they came out hot. They could not miss. Everything that they threw up went in. And some of it was bad defense. A lot of them were contested and from deep from behind the three-point line. They're not going to do that consistently. I really don't think the gap between the Cavs and the teams ahead of them is that wide. We've already seen Cleveland beat Boston twice, once in Cleveland, once at Boston. And both of those times, if I'm not mistaken, or one of the times, they did not have Donovan Mitchell when they won against Boston. Now, I know both teams are, Boston's better than they were to start the season, but in my opinion, so is Cleveland. They're actually playing their best basketball now, despite the fact that they, of course, did lose to Philly the other night. But they played on the road. They came back from, that's the other story too. Yes, they were down 30. They came back from trailing by 30, and they only lost by a couple possessions, but they put the pressure on Philadelphia. They did not give up. They did not quit. They just kept believing, and they were right there when it was all said and done. I think that they do finish in the top 3. I still like their roster better than Philadelphia. I know Philly has more of the experience, and they have James Harden, and they have guys that have been there longer. I do like.
I ain't worried
Joel
about
Embiid.
Harden. I'm worried about Embiid.
I'm not worried about him because he'll get hurt eventually. It sounds mean.
Dang.
He's not as fragile as Anthony Davis, but he's the East version of Anthony Davis, where we don't doubt what AD could do when he's on the floor. I definitely don't doubt. I mean, watching him the other night, Embiid just backing down, even Jared Allen, who's a very good defender. Oh, man, he's nothing compared to Joel Embiid, but I'm not confident he'll be healthy down the stretch. I think the Cavs finish in the top 3. So I'm going to say, what would I say to that?
You would say, wait.
Let me reread it. Then you tell me what my answer is.
What was the question?
The Cleveland Cavaliers will be a top 3 seed in the East heading into the playoffs, cap or no cap. So I'm saying
mine is cap because it's a lot. Yours is no cap.
Yeah, it's like I said, no cap.
So for me, I'm looking at those matchups with the Cavs. So wherever they land, I like their matchup versus who I think is the best team in the East, the Celtics, better than I like it versus the Bucks or Philly because of Embiid and because of Giannis. I mean, those two dudes like so dominant in the paint, and it's just so much for Jared Allen to handle. He's not a great on-ball defender. He's a great roamer, great rebounder, great shot blocker, but having to man those guys up by himself, it gets difficult. And that's no shame. It gets difficult for everybody out there. But I think since Boston is more perimeter oriented, that matchup is better for the Cavs. Even though, Brown and Tatum are awesome, I just think that game is more perimeter. You got perimeter guys for the Cavs that can go at those guys too. You don't really have a big man to go at Embiid to get him in foul trouble or Giannis. So those matchups between the Bucks and 76ers worry me with the Cavs.
All right, and that was cap or no cap. All right, Kenner and Cav with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. When we come back, we'll talk a little Cincinnati Reds baseball. That's right. Tyler Stephenson, the Cincinnati Reds, David Bell, they have a plan for how they want to utilize Tyler Stephenson this coming up season. I mean, he's going to be a catcher. He's going to be a first baseman. He's going to be a DH. He's going to be a utility guy. Thumbs up or thumbs down to that approach. I'm going to tell you why I'm not giving it just 1 thumbs up. I'm giving it 2 thumbs up. And nope, can't make that joke. 2 thumbs up. That's all I'm going to do. 2 thumbs up to this move. We'll be right back. Kenner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio.
By now, you should know Audio Etc. has all the same sales and deals on TVs and projectors as everyone else. But did you know we also or revisit old classics. Audio Etc. Sound advice you can trust. Audio Etc. 551 Congress Park Drive at the corner of Paragon in Centerville, or call 434-9770.
Audio Etc's crazy cool showroom.
First, we decide where we want to go. Then we need to know the best way to get there. Hi, my name's Adam Barada. I'm the owner of Advantage Gold. We're the highest rated precious metals firm in the country. We teach people how to own physical gold and silver. Now, we've won the Best of TrustLink Award 4 years in a row because we educate our clients on how to buy gold and silver the right way. We don't pay celebrity spokespeople millions of dollars. We'd rather pass that value on to you. Call 800-900-8000 and speak with one of our experts. We'll send you a free gold kit along with my latest #1 national best-selling book, The Great Devaluation. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. Get the best information, the best process, the best service, the best value. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with your financial advisor before investing.
Mornings were made for better things than rheumatoid arthritis or RA. Xeljanz tofacitinib is a pill for adults with moderate to severe RA when tumor necrosis factor blockers did not work well or could not be tolerated. Xeljanz can help relieve joint pain, swelling, and help stop further joint damage. Xeljanz can lower your ability to fight infections. Don't start if you have one. Before and during treatment, your doctor should check for infections like TB and do blood tests. Serious, sometimes fatal infections, cancers including lymphoma and lung, blood clots, serious heart-related events, tears in the stomach or intestines, and allergic reactions have happened. People 50 and older with heart disease risk factors have an increased risk of death. Tell your doctor if you've had hepatitis B or C, have flu-like symptoms, are prone to infections, or have ever had a heart attack, stroke, clot, or other heart problems, or swelling of lips, tongue, throat, or hives. Ask your doctor about prescription Xeljanz. Visit Xeljanz.com or call 1-844-XELJANZ.
Dell Technologies President's Day sale starts now with savings on select sleek XPS PCs and more, powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Call 877-ASK-DELL.
All sports, all the time. This is 1410 ESPN Radio.
Good stuff there on the cap or no cap. If you missed that, we'll have it up for you later on in the show. By the way, our ESPN Dayton YouTube channel, if you haven't done so, that's where you really need to go to obviously subscribe to the ESPN Dayton YouTube channel. But that's where you can go back, watch all shows that you've missed, all select segments, like a conversation yesterday. Of course, we did the guy versus just a guy. And of course, the Deshaun Watson conversation sparks, anger from people. But nonetheless, he's an intriguing quarterback, not from the off the field stuff. Of course, that adds a whole other polarizing element to it, of course. But as far as what he brings to the table for the Browns in 2023, the reports on what the Browns plan on doing, they range from mild to wild. They could end up with DeAndre Hopkins. They could maybe make a move for Judy. They can, maybe it's going to be an interesting offseason. I could also see the Browns kind of standing pat a little bit and saying, hey, the best way for us to improve is just another full off season of letting these guys gel. Who knows? But we'll get to that later on. Speaking of an off season that's allowing teams to gel, who need it? The Cincinnati Reds. Now I'm trying to stall here because I feel a sneeze coming, so I'm doing everything I can.
Oh, man.
I didn't even mean to talk Browns. I think we're good. Purple. Purple. What are the – I was told in high school, say purple, and it gets rid of the sneeze, but I don't think it's working.
Oh, goodness. Let me get a liner card. Hold on.
What are some tricks?
Turn your mic off. Go outside the studio and go ahead and sneeze, and I'll handle this.
Listeners, help us out. What's ways to stop us? It's just been sitting there. It's the left nostril. It's just tickling the whole time. I don't know if I got a boogie. I don't know what I got. A whole lot. Joe Holter says, bless you. Just let it go, man.
Yeah, go outside the studio and I can handle this.
He said, look at the light.
Look at the light, not those lights. Oh, those are those school lights.
First of all, I'm just impressed that those lights work in this damn building. Let's just be real. Good. We got yellow light over there, real bright, right? I think we're good.
Okay.
I think we're good.
You sure?
Joe Holcher? No, Randy Scott Jr. said just sneeze. The only one saying not to do that is the guy sitting across from me.
Yeah, y'all saying that because y'all safe at home, listen on your computer. Goodness gracious, where my lights all at?
What up? Rose says, what up? Shout
What
out to
up,
Rolando, by the way. He stopped out at the old Frickers this past weekend, by the way,
Yes,
for the final
sir.
Sunday morning show of the season. So I appreciate him. A couple other Bengals fans, too. It's all Bengals fans. People say Bengals fans hate me, but the only people that come out to see me at Frickers are all Bengals fans. Where my Browns fans at? They all just leave me hanging. But nonetheless. All right, the sneeze is good. So I was BSing to kind of fill some time. So what we're going to do is... All right. All right, everybody, welcome back. Kenner and Kev with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. Had a lot of fun with Cap or No Cap. So there's that. Make sure you are following and subscribing to our ESPN Dayton YouTube channel. Now that I am not trying to fill time to avoid a sneeze, I am ready to go. We're ready to kill it this segment. Kenner and Kev, 1410 ESPN radio. So, Kev, baseball season coming up not too far off in the distance. Pitchers and catchers reporting to spring training, of course. Look, bottom line is last year was an absolute horrendous season for the Cincinnati Reds. I don't wish last season on any other fan base out there. I mean, it was just unenjoyable from beginning to end. And even when what's crazy is that they started the season, what was it, 2-25 or something crazy. And then they would go on to play 500 baseball the rest of the way, which is wild to me because you play 500 baseball in the month of April, you're winning about maybe 10 more games and you're in that 70 game range and you're a pretty average team. But like when you start thinking about, you can hit the excuse bell you want on this, but think about this. Okay. Tyler Stephenson missed 112 games last year. Jonathan India missed 90 plus games last year, the rookie of the year. Lucas Sims only pitched not even 7 complete innings on the season. Pham started the season 0-22. Joey Votto, his rotator cuff injury, of course, which, by the way, I'm not even going to count that because, by God, the year before he was swinging the bat at a high level. We thought he was back, but then he starts not playing well. And then all of a sudden he's magically had this rotator cuff injury that he's been battling for years and years and years and just decided to get it taken care of. Whatever, Joe, do what you got to do. Santillan missing the season from June on, Ashcraft, Green, Lodolo, those guys all individually missed a month of time sporadically throughout the season. Injuries are part of the game. Injuries will be a part of the game this upcoming season. But when you really think about how bad this team was last year, a lot of it was bad because they were supposed to be bad because it's a young roster and they're rebuilding. But on top of that, they were bad because of injuries and all these other things that piled up. There are injuries, but then there's missing your best players for 90 plus games. To miss Jonathan India and Tyler Stephenson for 90 plus and 112 plus games, that's brutal. That'll be brutal this year if it happens. That'll be brutal when this roster is deeper in the next couple of years. But I guess I bring this up because I know the excuse bell is a way to nullify everything that I just said, and go ahead, hit it. And as it should. I don't like when other fan bases use excuses, but sometimes there's excuses and sometimes there are just reasons. And when you have a team like the Reds, that the margin for error is so slim, you know what you can't afford? Tyler Stephenson being out for 112 games. Jonathan India missing 90 plus games, not being able to have, the majority of your pitching staff, like your 3 top starters who were all new last year, of course, and Nick Lodolo, Hunter Green, and Graham Ashcraft all missing up to a month or more sporadically throughout the season. Your margin for error is so slim. Other deeper teams, they can have their top hitter miss a month with an injury and have enough around them to compensate for it. The Reds don't have that, and they won't have that this season. So that's why last year, when Tyler Stephenson went on the DL or on the IL for his 3rd stint and final stint of the season, to where he missed 112 games, I remember thinking, as well as a lot of people, started talking about the fact that maybe Tyler Stephenson, although he was one of the best catchers in baseball, at least he looks like it as of right now, very young in the league, so maybe it's a little premature to say one of the best catchers in baseball, but he certainly as hell looks like it when he's out on the field. And the reason I don't think I'm overreacting to this is because all 3 stints on the IL last year, Kev, all came from collisions at home plate or catcher-related instances or impacts throughout the game. So the conversation started to be, thrown out there of, should Tyler Stephenson be a catcher? He's too important. He's a 300 hitter. He is their best power hitter. He does it all for the Reds, not just defensively as a catcher, yes, but most importantly, a team that needs power and they need pop and they need all that stuff in that lineup. And when you don't have him out there, they are a completely different baseball team. They're a bad baseball team, but they're a horrendous baseball team without him. He is that type of guy that makes a difference when he's in that lineup. And it is very crucial that the Reds have him in that lineup. Is he such a good catcher that it's worth gambling what he brings to the table in the lineup? The 112 games that he missed last year, was that worth it because of how talented he is as a catcher? I don't think so. I think you could have gone with the platoon of Tucker Barnhart and some other guys that you could have, ran out at catcher and still, put him at first base, utilized him with the DH. There's a lot of different things that the Reds could have done to be able to keep him healthy and keep him out there. And it sounds like that's what the Reds are going to do in 2023. It sounds like they have a plan. And it doesn't sound like they have a plan. They are telling you that they have a plan. This plan, Kev, and this is according to David Bell, this is the plan that they have for Tyler Stephenson heading into the season. He is going to, again, 162-game season, nothing more than that. He will catch 65 games. The Reds already know, David Bell has already mapped it out. Barring injuries, he will only catch 65 of the 162 games this season. So what's that mean for the other games? Throughout a 10-day period, he will DH in 3 games every 10 days. He will also play first base 2 times in that span as well.
Okay.
This is how you, for one, there's a couple different things to this. For one, it's limiting how many times he's behind home plate. So it's also limiting, it's decreasing the amount of times you get the collisions at home plate, and it decreases the amount of times he's going to get injured. He's going to get injured. He will foul, a pitch off the hands, a foul ball off the foot, just a hamstring. There's going to be injuries throughout, like that are non-catcher related. But those you could deal with. Those are your typical baseball injuries. And you could even have typical baseball injuries at home plate. But when your catcher is your best hitter, you have to plan for that. You have to make sure that you have a plan to rebound from that. And I think that that's what this is. People are furious about this. They're angry about it. And normally I would agree with you guys and say, well, this is very soft of the Reds. I actually think this is one of the smarter, more proactive things that the Reds have done. I argued last year that the one thing I hate about the Cincinnati Reds is that they are so forward thinking as far as preventative measures are concerned. 3rd time through the order. All right. The double switches. Everything that they do is based on the probabilities that come to them based on the information at hand, which is the advanced analytics. Everything about baseball is about obviously limiting the risk factors or trying to overcome or try to outsmart the risk factors that are out there, right? Preventative measures, preventing any kind of disaster that could happen based on what the numbers and data show you. But yet, David Bell, the most preventative, measured-minded manager in baseball, is just going to continue throwing Tyler Stephenson out behind home plate every single night. That doesn't make any sense. For once, David Bell's doing something that I am applauding. Maybe it's coming from up top with Nick Kroll and the Reds front office. Who knows? But to me, I'm a big fan of this. Not a lot of people are. But if the Reds' justification for this is to, well, we got to keep our best player on the field at all times, and if this is how we do it, then this is what we're going to do, I'm completely fine with that. I know we're conditioned to bash this organization, but I'm here to tell you that I think that this is a very smart move on behalf of the Cincinnati Reds.
They're utilizing the universal DH.
Yes.
As you should. This is obviously the 2nd year that the universal DH is going to be in the NL as well. So if it's your best hitter and he's your best player on the team, I don't have a problem with it. So there's going to be some days he's going to need a break. We see all the old timers, that played catcher back in the day. What do? They all limping around because their knees is all bad. So, hey, all right, we're going to put him at first base a little bit. We're going to use him as a DH. That doesn't mean he's not going to play. It doesn't mean he's not going to play in the field. So this is a great move. This obviously is going to make his career last longer as well. So this is good for everybody.
So now the question is, you've heard what we have to say. How do you Reds fans feel about this? Because I am very interested to see why people are so upset about this. It keeps Tyler Stephenson on the field. He's a 300 hitter. He does all the little things that this team needs, when just the confidence that this team feels just based on his presence out there and in that lineup alone is a very big deal. And it's a big deal to the team's success in 2023. And believe it or not, this team can have more success than you actually think. The over-under for wins, according to the FanDuel Sportsbook, is set at 65. I am taking the over on that. I'm not saying it's going to be over to the point that where we're talking about an 85-win team, but I think that this team could be anywhere between 70 to 75 wins, third in the NL Central, not winning a GD thing. I completely get that. But all I want to know is that if the organization is making us suffer through a rebuild, we better be suffering for a reason. And I think this year we're going to feel good about the direction of the franchise because, yes, we are upset that there's not winning and no playoffs and all that, but I feel like they are on the right track. Do you remember that first season with Joe Burrow? The Bengals stunk. They weren't any good. They won 4 games. They won 1 game with Joe Burrow or 2 games with Joe Burrow through the first 11 before he went out against Washington. But Kev, I remember that year. The Bengals fan base, they were ecstatic. They were so happy because of what they saw from Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
They were so jacked and excited after all the years of losing, after all the years of falling, coming up short. They finally felt like, oh man, we have the guy that's going to take us where we want to go. And you cared about the losing, but you saw the bigger picture. That's where we're at. That's the stage that we are at right now when it comes to this Reds team. You got to stop being negative. You got to stop with all the negative comments. Oh, the ownership this, the ownership that. The Bengals ownership is garbage as well. And they overcame it because they drafted well. They made enough right decisions. Believe it or not, y'all don't want to hear this. Y'all don't want to accept it. Nick Kral's killing it. Nick Krall is just making great decision after great decision after great decision. What he does with it once it's time to start putting pieces around it, then we'll get to that point later. But if you guys are just going to be negative all the time to the point to where you won't even accept positive things when they happen, then this is just going to be a miserable relationship for all summer because I think that this team has what it takes between Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green and Graham Ashcraft and De La Cruz coming up through the system. This is supposed to be the hottest prospect in baseball since Bryce Harper. So with the way he's speeding through the system, I'm jacked. The future for the Reds is very, very bright. Y'all accepted a horrible Bengals team in Joe Burrow's rookie season because you saw the bigger picture. I think this season is going to be the equivalent to that for the Bengals, where we're that close. The Reds are this close. And I think it's because of decisions like this where they are trying to do preventative measures.
Yeah.
Let's keep our best players out on that field. And I think the Reds are going to be much more competitive in 2023.
You know how I know last year it was a terrible season? And the expectations weren't there, not only from you, but the entire fan base, because we didn't get calls when they would lose games.
Mm-hmm.
People were just basically accepting the fact that they were going to lose a ton of games. The most interaction we got all last year talking about Reds was when are you going to go?
And there was crickets after that.
Yeah, there was nothing. There was no buzz. I mean, maybe around All-Star Weekend got a little buzz, but there wasn't any buzz. And this creates the buzz because you're going to get a more healthy player. You're going to get a player that is going to be able to do more for the team. So I like this. And let's be clear, they've been doing this in the American League for years. It's maybe that's it because it's new to the NL. Maybe you're not used to seeing it with your team. Maybe that's the situation.
And the flexibility and the Reds, the fact that they're taking advantage of these opportunities. Keep that in mind. Jake Whiting. What up, Jake? Usually he's just a football season guy. So good to hear from you, Jake. He goes, I love it. He goes on to talk about the Reds. The difference this time is they didn't half-ass the rebuild. You don't need to block out the S's. You could say, I wore a shirt that had the A word in it yesterday. It said Burrowhead my ass. It was the Patrick Mahomes. It was the Travis Kelce shirt that I got for Valentine's Day. I wore it with pride yesterday.
You know he's going to be hosting Saturday Night
Live.
Oh,
yeah. I cannot wait.
Oh, boy.
I posted on Facebook yesterday. Of course, all negative comments. You know he's really not that funny. I'm like, I find him hilarious. But anyways, but no, Jake's a good dude. I love Jake. He goes, they didn't half-ass the rebuild, and they did it right this time, and that's why I'm not mad. I agree with Jake 1,000,000%. The reason last time was so bad was because we watched it. They waited too long to move on from Jay Bruce and from Chapman, and they waited too long to move on from Frazier, and they were just holding on to something so they could enjoy the All-Star game being in Cincinnati. And they waited too long. They didn't wait. In fact, you know why they did it right this time? Because you were pissed off when they moved on from guys. You moved on from him. He's good. Why are you moving on from him? He's good. Why didn't you extend him? He's good. That's how I know the Reds did it right this time. Because what you don't want to do is wait for, like what we saw with Eugenio Suarez, where he went Eugenio for 5 almost every single night. You know, the Reds moved on from Eugenio Suarez when he was bad. We were mad because if they would have moved on from him when he was good, that would have been the right time to do it if you were going to do it. Jesse Winker, We were mad that they moved on from a guy that just had his best season ever. He was an all-star for the Reds. But the Reds said, yeah, you're just thinking of the first half of the season when he was hitting over 300 and he couldn't, you couldn't stop him. He's been really, really bad ever since. The Reds came out on top on that. They moved on from Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray's an older pitcher. Sonny Gray was never going to be a part of the long-term plan for the Reds once the Reds had decided they were going to hit the restart button. I'm not here to sell you Reds propaganda. I'm not here on behalf of the Reds to sell you BS. I'm here to tell you, when you look at what Nick Krall is doing, you don't have to like the Castellinis. That's your prerogative. But I'm telling you, Nick Krall is a different dude. He's getting a lot of attention around Major League Baseball. I'm listening to national podcasts, Kev, like MLB podcasts across the board. Like, we'll be talking about the Yankees, we'll be talking about the Astros, and out of nowhere, they'll be talking about Nick Krall and the job that he's doing with this rebuild. Nick Krall is getting attention around the league. The Reds are onto something. That's all I got to say. I'm going to be positive about this. Chad Emery on Facebook says the Reds are winning the World Series this year. Yeah.
How much you put down?
So jealous that you're drinking on a Friday before me.
I wonder what type of bet that would get you.
Yeah.
So you put $5 down.
Shaw says, call me a hater if you want, but I don't think they'll be much better. Sorry, maybe 65 or 68 wins. If you want to make it about the wins, fine. I think they're going to win more games because, last year they weren't a great baseball team, but you take a team that's already not good because of youth and just not having any veteran players, but you add on the fact that of the youth, their best players of the youth they missed over 100 games, 200 games combined when you take Jonathan India and Tyler Stephenson. So you get them back and they play, at least 75, 80% of the season. That naturally right there is a plus 10 win improvement. So I'm just saying they're not a playoff team. They're not a wild card team. I'm not trying to sell you on some magical season. I'm trying to use the Cincinnati Bengals rookie season to Joe Burrow as that example where they lost a lot of games. But man, Bengals fans were mouthy. They were chirpy. They were excited because they saw like, oh, we got something here. And I think that that's what this season is going to be for the Cincinnati Reds. 518-1410, 518-1410. Give us a call. Curious your thoughts on the Cincinnati Reds as, again, we embark on spring training as we head into the weekend. But I feel pretty good about the direction of the Reds with Nick Krall and the moves that he has made. And now we get to see that next step. How do these guys gel in year two? Dela Cruz, what's his role going to be for the Reds this year? Does he need more time in the minors? Probably. But will he surprise some people in camp? That's going to be the big question mark I have. And I'm really looking forward to that. Kenner and Kev, 1410, ESPN Radio.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Hello there. My name is Seychelle, and what makes the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich original to me is the punch of flavors that's unlike any other. You get the crispy tenderness of the chicken and that hint of sourness from the pickles. Ta-da!
Hey, I'm Juan, and what makes the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich original to me is you're going to get chicken that's crispy, golden, and juicy. This is the gold standard of chicken sandwiches.
Order the original Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich on the Chick-fil-A app today. Real customers paid for their testimonials.
O'Reilly Auto Parts provides more than just the right parts for your repair. Our professional parts people can also offer free check engine light diagnosis. We can scan your vehicle and provide a list of possible fixes. Find the right parts for you or recommend a great local repair shop. Don't ignore your check engine light. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly.
them. Their knowledge of specific male anatomy, prostate issues, and how to help in your healing is their main focus. Urology Specialists of Ohio are now accepting new patients at all locations: Beaver Creek, Springfield, Urbana, Xenia, and London. They have been in practice for over 20 years with over 80 years of experience between 5 physicians. Call today. They can schedule your appointment in a timely manner with little wait time. Online at urologyspecialistofohio.com.
Cordell Transportation is hiring third shift dispatcher / customer service representatives. Excellent pay, great benefits, no experience necessary, and paid training. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com or stop in today at 2942 Boulder Avenue in Dayton. Equal opportunity employer.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
And now a small business setback, set to smooth jazz.
It's late. You're driving in the rain with only one thing on your mind. The deer about to total your HVAC van. But with Progressive's 30-plus customizable coverage options, you're covered. The rest is just saxophone.
When running your small business gets rough, Progressive Commercial is there to smooth it out. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Twinkly sound.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Coverage and discounts not available for all vehicles or states. Policy terms and conditions apply.
The Jeep Wrangler 4xE. It's electrified. So you can boogie woogie woogie up a mountain, over creeks, or boogie woogie woogie through a desert where you get bit by a pit viper. So you boogie woogie woogie back to camp and ask your friends if they'll suck the snake venom out. When they say no, you boogie woogie woogie to the nearest hospital for a dose of antivenom and boogie woogie woogie your way to a full recovery. The electrified Jeep Wrangler 4xE. Learn more at Jeep.com. Jeep is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.
Still overpaying for a razor? In this economy? Gross. At Dollar Shave Club, you can get a top shelf shave at a regular shelf price. We've been hawking shaving products for years online, and we're excited to bring you the same great quality and low prices at a store near you. From high-quality stainless steel blades to super smooth shave creams, Dollar Shave Club's in the business of making your shave easier. Find Dollar Shave Club in the men's razor aisle. Getting your Dollar Shave Club razor wherever you want. Isn't that great?
O'Reilly. When you need auto parts, O'ReillyAuto.com is just a few clicks away. We offer convenient options for you to get your parts quickly. Order online and pick up for free at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store. We'll even bring it out curbside. Or you can have your parts delivered right to your door with free shipping on most orders over $35. Visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Are you ready for tax season? Belmont Business Consultants and Tax Services is ready for you. If you want to come in person, it's a safe environment. Or you can just drop off. Belmont Tax also provides a completely virtual, secure client portal. For business or personal, if you want the accurate deductions you deserve, contact Belmont Tax in Dayton and Eaton. Go to BelmontBCTXS.com. BelmontBCTXS.com.
At the UPS Store, we know this upcoming holiday is when things can get busy for small business owners.
Exactly. My to-do list and I don't take days off.
That's why you can count on us to be open and ready to help with every small business need, whether it's packing and shipping or if it's just to check your mailbox.
That's almost everything on my to-do list. My list and I can take the day off.
Your local, the everything to help you be unstoppable store. The UPS Store. Be unstoppable. The UPS Store locations are independently owned. Product, services, pricing, and hours may vary. See Center for details.
3 people you should be 100% certain about. Your barber, your plumber, and your tax pro. Switch to Jackson Hewitt and you can be 100% certain about your taxes. We'll get you your maximum refund guaranteed and we'll back your return for life. Don't be kind of certain or almost certain. Be 100% certain. Switch to Jackson Hewitt today and get 50% off tax prep. Limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
Jackson Hewitt guarantees your biggest tax refund, plus a chance to double your refund with the Double Your Refund sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. U.S. residents 18 or older who file a 2022 federal return ends 4/2/23.
Kenner and Cav live with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM, live on ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel, as well as the Jocelyn Kenner Show Facebook page. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow along, be a part of all the conversation there. So in the last part of the show, we were talking about the Cincinnati Reds, and I'm not here to try to convince you that this is going to be a great baseball team in 2023 or a good baseball team in 2023. But what I am here to tell you is that considering the circumstances and where we are amongst the rebuild, within the rebuild of this organization, if you're going to be, and by the way, you're the fan, how you view sports and how you view your team, that's your prerogative. But at the same time, you have to have a realistic understanding of how sports work, and whether you like how the Reds are operating or not, it doesn't change the fact that this is a rebuilding team. The Reds are rebuilding. They're in the midst of this rebuild, and they're actually kicking ass when you consider what their job is at this point. Their job right now, I know you would love it to be to win baseball games, and I'm sure they would love to win baseball games. They would love to win to shut you guys up. Like, let's just be real. To shut you guys up and to get you to buy tickets to fill up Great American Ballpark. They want that just as much as you do, but obviously they put up their own roadblocks to make it harder. And, of course, we think we could own a team better than them, and I don't know what all goes into owning a team. To me, I think it's as simple as I have money, and I want that player, and I want that player, and I want that player, and I want that guy, and I want this. If it was that easy, everyone would be doing it, and nonetheless. But where we are at, I think Nick Krall has absolutely killed it as general manager of the Reds as far as, orchestrating this rebuild. You look at all the pieces that they have got back in return, a top 5 farm system in baseball, developed. Everyone says, oh, they don't develop talent. I totally disagree with that. I think that you look at this team right now. I mean, they developed Jesse Winker, who they moved on from and were able to get a lot of pieces back for. They developed Eugenio Suarez, who they helped develop when he got here and moved on from him while he was playing bad baseball, got a lot of pieces back for him. Okay. You look at what they've done with Jonathan India. They developed him into Rookie of the Year. They took Tyler Stephenson, and within a short time being called up to the majors, already one of the top catchers in baseball, top 10 catcher in Major League Baseball, and he missed 112 games last year. You look at the development of Nick Lodolo, the development of Hunter Green, the development of Graham Ashcraft. They have Ellie De La Cruz, one of the top prospects in all of Major League Baseball. They did that. Now, he did that. I'm not taking anything away from him, but the Reds developed him. They didn't stunt his growth. They didn't get in his way. So we got to stop with this. The Reds don't develop anybody. They do. The other idea that, they're just going to get good so the Reds can trade them. Let's be clear. The Reds traded Jesse Winker, and you're mad at them for doing the right thing. Did you want him to stay on the roster, get paid a ton of dollars just so he can not produce like he did not produce in Seattle? And by the way, they traded on from him already too. Like, you realize he's 2 teams removed from the Reds already, and you're mad because the Reds didn't keep that guy. I mean, I don't know what you guys expect. Oh, they moved on from Sonny Gray. Yes, because what's the point of having a veteran pitcher on a rebuilding baseball team where you're not going to win baseball games? That's wasted revenue. That's wasted money. Spend with a purpose. If the Reds are going to be tight financially, tight, spend with a purpose. Keeping Sonny Gray wouldn't have accomplished anything. Oh, the wisdom and blah, blah, blah that Hunter Green and them look just fine without Sonny Gray. And I love Sonny Gray. My point is that, so Shaw had brought up, they can't wait for them just to move on from him again. We got to stop with that. Every player they moved on from has been for a reason. I don't understand that idea. By the way, and I don't know, even the teams like the Dodgers and Yankees, they move on from star players too. Mm-hmm. They move on from their players as well. They're just quicker to bring replacements in. That's not how the Reds operate. But we got to stop with this idea. I mean, the Guardians moved on from their top shortstop, and they made the playoffs. Didn't impact them at all. Like, that's just part of it. And so this idea that the Reds are never going to move on from talent, that's not true. They're willing to pay talent. They spent a ton of money to bring in Moustakas and Castellanos, and they paid a ton of money to bring in Sonny Gray and Trevor Bauer. They did all of those things. It just didn't work. So they traded on from all of them to bring in young prospects to develop, to start the process over again. I'm not defending the Castellinis. I'm just defending some of the regurgitated narratives that I don't think are fair and I don't think are as accurate as what you guys think that they are. Oh, I can't wait for them to trade Jonathan India. If they trade Jonathan India 6, 7, 8 years from now when they start the next rebuild, okay, fine, but that's just how this team's going to operate. But in the meantime, they're developing them to win within the next 2 years, going a 3-4 year run, and then they'll start it all over again. Y'all don't like it. That's just the reality of it. Your team has done it twice almost since the World Series.
Right. I just think that the fans are just like, when is it going to pay off? Like, when is it really going to pay off? How long has it been since the Reds were like, good?
I mean, it would have been that 2010, 2012, the year they won the NL Central. So that would have been what, 11 or 12?
It's a long time ago.
Oh yeah, it's more than a decade ago. And to be honest, I think that 2020 team, it just didn't get a chance to produce on the field. Like it was on the field, but that COVID season, not an excuse. Let's just be real. That's a weird season.
Mm-hmm.
But you had Luis Castillo, you had Sonny Gray, you had Trevor Bauer, you had some dudes. You had great pieces in your bullpen. You had Moustakas, you had Castellanos, you had Winker, you had guys that can hit the baseball, you had guys that could produce. I think that roster was as talented as some of the 2010s run that they went on. I think that 10s team was a little bit deeper, but they had everything. The expectation for those teams that made the playoffs in the 2010s, they were good enough to get out of the first round. They didn't, but they were good enough to get to the World Series, in my opinion. They were good enough to beat anyone when they had Johnny Cueto and they had all those pieces in that rotation and bullpen. So, yeah, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah. I think that's probably the biggest issue, man. People are just like, man, it's been a long time since we had anything to brag about, anything to cheer about. But, I mean, when that turn eventually does come, I always say this, the build back up is way more exciting than trying to sustain success. Like the Yankees are in a situation, as well as the Dodgers, championship or bust type of situations. But when the Reds finally do turn it around and they're in the playoffs and winning games and potentially winning series, that's going to be way more exciting than when you do get to the top and then have to keep that feeling forever.
So David Shaw says the Reds do this time and time again. They get a lot of guys in the minor leagues, develop them, and get rid of them after they're in the league 3 or 4 years. Sean, who doesn't? Who doesn't? I would love to know who doesn't do that. I'm sorry, but one of the biggest storylines in baseball last year was and he goes, this is why I became a Braves fan. I think one of the biggest storylines last year was Freddie Freeman's emotional return to Atlanta. So again, Braves better than the Reds. I get that, but every team develops players and they don't get to keep all of them. They get to keep a select few of them. The Guardians didn't get to keep Francisco Lindor. I know that stung, but that's just those are tough decisions that these organizations have to make. But yeah, I mean, that's a weird negative way. Winning ball clubs. You're a winning ball club that still moved on from Freddie Freeman. I think that's pretty silly. That's more silly moving on from him than the Reds moving on from Jesse Winker. It's baseball season. Ay. So there's that nonetheless. 518-1410, 518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. Kev Nash brings us the hurry up coming up around the corner. We also have NBA All-Star conversation to get into. This is kind of a dull All-Star game this weekend from a Miami Valley perspective. No Luke Kennard, no Obi Toppin. We put an article out, we put a blog up at wingam.com just kind of highlighting Obi Toppin's dunk contest the last couple of years, as well as Luke Kennard's three-point contest participation, even going all the way back to 2009 with Daquan Cook winning the three-point contest, nonetheless, former Dunbar Wolverine. So pretty cool stuff. Check that out at wingam.com. Kenner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll be right back.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash on 1410.
Want to make tonight's dinner a perfect 10? Swing by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken and pick up a 10-piece strips meal for only $24.99. With 10 freshly marinated, honey-dipped premium tenderloins, 3 dipping sauces, 2 of our irresistible large sides, and 5 fluffy biscuits, it's family time made from scratch. Take home a top-notch dinner the whole family will love from Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken with our 10-piece strips meal for only $24.99. Only at Lee's. Famous for chicken.
Do you have an oak tree in your yard? The Ohio Chapter International Society of Arboriculture is committed to advancing responsible tree care practices while preventing a fungal disease called oak wilt. They remind those who own and manage oak trees the best time to prune is November to early March. To find out more, there are over 1,000 qualified tree experts in Ohio. To find an ISA-certified arborist in your area, visit treesforohio.org. That's trees, the number 4, ohio.org.
Everybody's talking about regenerative medicine now because people who have joint pain are getting real, lasting relief without drugs or surgery. Hey, it's Keith Byers. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in exciting treatment. They use highly concentrated healing agents from
and save 25% off your order of naturally nude pajamas. Order now.
Free battery testing, free battery charging, and replacement batteries that fit your needs. That's what makes AutoZone America's #1 battery destination. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
College football playoffs, Browns, Bengals, Buckeyes, and more. Catch the Keith Byers Show Mondays at noon on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Kenner and Cav back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio, live on ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel, Jocelyn Kenner Show Facebook page. Check all those locations out. Live on 1410 Wing AM and wingam.com nonetheless. So many different ways you could take in the show. Some of the comments coming in on Facebook. Jake Whiting says, we got to move on from Votto. Yeah, with other players that the Reds don't move on from. It's that guy. Look, Votto is one of those. He's always going to be a very polarizing and interesting figure in Reds history. Obviously, one of the best hitters of all time. I mean, you could argue that the Reds have had the two best hitters of all time in the history of baseball. When you think about Pete Rose and Joey Votto from a statistical standpoint, of course, you have the hit king and Pete Rose. There's a lot of modern day baseball fans that prefer Joey Votto over Pete Rose. And, there's a lot of stats to back that up, but there's like so many stats in baseball. You can have any opinion you want and back it up with a bajillion different stats that are out there, nonetheless. Before we move on, 518-1410, I think this is Shaw. Shaw, you are on live, sir. Welcome.
How you doing, man?
Not too bad. Now, how are you recovering from surgery?
One day at a time. Got your good days, got your bad days, but overall, it's been good.
Well, I hope it grows back. Classic.
Well played.
What you got for us, man? What you got for us?
You want to throw Freddie in my face, but he was a Brave for 13 years. And then they got rid of him, and they have a first baseman that already replaced him. And they just did the same thing with Dansby Swanson. My issue with the Reds is they don't even let them get to the point of a Freddie Freeman. They do it before 2-3 years into a rebuild. They don't even except for 2010, 2012, that little run right there. Since the 1990s, this is what they do. They cut it. They cut the payroll. They cut everybody loose, and then they rebuild. They let the minor leagues build back up. You get guys that you're excited about. They bring them up, and 2-3 years later, if they don't win right away, they cut them, let them loose, and we start the whole process all over again.
I think, but you're making it very basic when it comes to that. You got to understand, like, the reason they move on from these players is because we're going to invest into them to lose baseball games right now. That doesn't make any sense. The Reds aren't going to operate, no matter how much we scream, kick, and complain. They are not going to operate like a big market team. It drives me crazy. I get that. But a lot of decisions that the Braves have made, as you've talked about with keeping the players that they have, they're in the hunt. They're right there in their division. They're winning division championships. Hell, they've won a World Series. They're making playoff runs. The Reds have not done enough, even when they've developed players to the point to where they're competitive, to justify paying them just to run in place and run in motion. Now, I think there's instead of the narrative of, the biggest problem is they move on from players when they're developed. I don't think that's the number one issue with the team. The issue I have with the team is by the time players get developed, they still don't have enough around them to be competitive, and that's why they end up moving on from guys. So I see what you're saying, but this idea that it's just a rinse cycle repeat of this, the rinse cycle repeat is not developing players and moving on from them. The rinse cycle repeat is developing players and still not having enough depth to be good enough to compete long-term. So that's why they move on from them. That's the problem I have. When they've been in position to be competitive, they're willing to spend the money. That's why they spent money on Votto. That's why you could argue they made the wrong decision all you want about Homer Bailey, but they proved, hey, we're going to be competitive. We're going to go ahead and pay for Homer Bailey. They've been willing to spend money. When they thought they were going to be competitive in 20, that's when they went all out, and they went out and got, Shogo Akiyama. They went out and got Moustakas. They got Castellanos. They obviously the Sonny Gray and Trevor Bauer. They've proven that when they feel they're competitive, they're going to spend the money. But the problem is they're never at the point where they're consistently competitive. So that's where I disagree with you, Mr. Shaw.
Yes and no. Back in the year I run to all the time with this is 1999. They went through a huge rebuild from 1995. They built it all the way up. 1999, they make a magical run to get in the wild card. They lose in a heartbreaker to the New York Mets. Everything's locked up, ready to go. We're set up, yada, yada, yada. And then they make the disastrous trade for King Griffey Jr. that since that point in time has set this organization back. I don't even know how long they set the organization back by making that trade. The reason I use that year is because that's what they do every single time. They build the players up, and then they'll make one or two moves, aka we need to sign Johnny Cueto or we need to sign Homer Bailey. We need to make one more move to make this team right over the top. They're a wild card team this year. We need to make one more move, get another pitcher, get another bullpen pitcher, get something else to make that one more move. And every time the move they make is disastrous, and then that next year's team is horrible because what they spent the money on eats the whole salary cap. Now they got nothing to operate with, and they let go everything underneath. And now you have the Jay Bruces of the world, the Adam Dunns of the world, that whole run with King Griffey Jr. and Adam Dunn, and that whole disasterness because you put your money into so many few places, and you put all your money into one basket, and you did not let your young players be the core of the team. They sit there and they try to dabble on both sides of the street. Oh, we're a small market team and we're a developing team. And then you get to that point and they sit there and then they want to go buy all in like they're a big market team instead of just playing it as in, let's build our guys up and let's build it up over a couple years and not go over the flashy players in the offseason. Let's get some guys that actually are going to come in here and actually build this thing up year after year after year. That's my issue with it. And I think that's the biggest issue with Reds fans altogether is they sit there and they try to play both sides of the street to make both sides of the street happy instead of just figuring out a way to do this and go after it. That's my issue with it.
So y'all can answer this for me. When did the Castellinis take over ownership?
Because he brought up 99. Marge Schott was still there in 99, I think. What year, Shaw, do you know off the top of your head when they sold to the Castellinis? Castellinis aren't full owners either, but like it's yeah.
Google says 06.
So okay.
So
yeah, I was going to say 05, 04 or 06.
So from my perspective, that's just people are mad with the philosophy of the front office. This is more like of a NFL analogy, but when I talk about the team that I follow in the NFL, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I know they're not going to do certain things. Like there's rumors about Jalen Ramsey. There's rumors about DeAndre Hopkins. I know 1,000,000% the Steelers are not going to do that. So I don't even read those articles. So from your perspective, for the Reds, you kind of know what they are and aren't going to do. And I think like that, when you're not winning games, when you know what your team is going to do, that makes you even more mad because you see the writing on the wall because you have so much history from years past of saying like, all right, they haven't done it in the past, so why would I expect them to do anything different in the future?
Exactly. And when the Steelers do something like that, Kev, where you sit there and you look at it and you go, oh, they're just not going to make that move. That's not the Steelers' way. The Steelers have the winning in the background to fall back on and go, well, I think they should probably maybe look into doing that, but they've won before, so why test the waters? The Reds over here on Reds country, what do you have to fall back on and sit there and say that you're going to trust what they do? Because when they sit there and try to make everybody happy, they're not making anyone happy. And they haven't made anyone happy for over 30 years. I understand that's two different ownership groups, and I understand it's many different GMs, and I understand. But in some aspects, no offense, Kenner, we're starting to sound like Browns, like the Cleveland Browns fans. Like, well, this next GM and this next ownership group, they'll get it done.
This GM is getting it done.
If we bring in this quarterback, or we bring in this pitcher, or this center fielder, they'll get it done. How many times do we have to see build a ball club from the middle out? Catcher, pitcher, shortstop, second base, center field, and let's build it that way. Let it roll, let it play out, and let's build the pieces around it and see what happens.
First of all, this question is coming in from Eric. Eric brings up a good point. You keep talking about all these great players that keep building up and moving on from, but outside of Johnny Cueto, who is a player that the Reds built up that was so great that they moved on from, that went on to have success that the Reds are still kicking themselves for losing? I can't think of one player outside of Johnny Cueto. Alonso.
First baseman right around Joey Votto time.
Alonso.
They cut him. Yes.
They cut. No, we're talking about but we're talking. And by the way, a lot of players come through farm systems that they move on from them on in the farm system, and then they pop on later. I'm talking about guys that were on the main roster that were ready to be paid, that the Reds said, you know what, we're going to pass or trade you, and then ended up being stars later. I'm not talking about guys.
Alonso was on the main roster,
but Alonso wasn't Alonso when he was with the Reds. So it's not like they moved on from Alonso when he was like this mega star.
But that's the whole point of this.
That's not the whole point. The whole point is you're talking about the Reds moving on from players instead of paying them. They weren't going to pay Alonso at that time anyways. He wasn't a player that you thought, man, we got to pay him to keep him.
They chose to pay Votto over Alonso.
And I think that was pretty damn smart, if you ask me.
Alonso has 2 World Series championships. How many?
Because he played on 2 World Series teams.
But they paid Votto so you couldn't have a team.
But if they paid Alonso, they would have a team.
But you're feeding my point.
No, you're not. I'm not. No, if they paid Alonso, they would have had a team.
You had a choice.
If they paid Alonso, would they have had a team? Answer that.
Because you're not going to pay Alonso $25 million like you paid Votto. Yes,
because he's not worth. He's not worth it. Of course.
To go get pitching, you had more money to go get more pitching. They sit there and they pay it's the same thing with the Homer Bailey Johnny Cueto argument. Go do the guy who actually has better numbers, and you'll be able to fill the roster better. No, you go pay Homer Bailey all the money you paid him, along with everyone else and Votto and everyone else. Now you don't have the money.
No, but I thought you said they don't pay their players. If you look, they made a mistake with Homer Bailey, but you said they don't pay players. They just develop players and move on from them. The Reds' mistake was they paid Homer Bailey and not Cueto. I agree that was a mistake, but this idea that they don't try to keep players or they don't pay players, they'll pay the players that they feel are worth it. But there's not a player that has come through outside of Cueto over the last however many years I could think of that I'm like, man, they really should have paid him to keep him. There's not one. Cueto is it. Cueto is the only player. There's not one other player outside of Cueto that they should have paid. Jesse Winker, that everyone was furious about. He hit .219. with the Mariners last year in 2022.
I wasn't a Winker guy or a Soros guy, but it's happened so many times since the early 2000s, you forget the names. And I'm sorry I don't have them written down on a Rolodex so I can pop them up.
Well, even if you did, they wouldn't be worthy names. Sorry. They wouldn't be worthy names.
To who? To the guys
Reds,
who won the World Series when they hold up the ring? Like, this has happened so many times. It really has.
So many times you can't name them.
Because it happened so many times, I don't have the names written down. And then, and I'm sitting there, and I've also said they do both. They'll either not spend money when they need to spend money, or they'll spend money when they don't need to. They don't, like I was saying, they're trying to make everyone happy at all the time instead of just picking a way to go do it and go attack that. That's my issue with it. If you want to sit there and say that, okay, we're a small market team and we're going to attack this as a small market team, then finish the small market team all the way through. Do a Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
They're not the Devil
some
Rays,
of these smaller clubs. Exactly. Yes. They're not a small market team. They choose to be.
No, they're not the Devil Rays. They're just the Rays. Team. I'm just giving you a hard time, Shaw. Shaw, thanks for the call. I'm glad you're feeling better. It's been a while. We haven't had a Kenner versus Shaw in a while. I'm sorry. I'm glad you found that. I'm so glad. The build up.
I knew it was coming. As soon as you said Devil Rays, I'm like,
look,
they're technically the Rays now, but of course I would let it slide. But Kenner lets nothing slide.
I understand what he's trying to say, but like the things that I'm not saying the Reds are perfect, by the way, because they're not even close. But my point is if you know that, hey, man, our farm system's not good, we're not developing players real well right now. The only way to overcompensate for that is to go spend a ton of money, which we, as you talked about, the Steelers, there's certain things they're not going to do. We know the Reds aren't going to go buy every position on the field. So the Reds are like, well, if we haven't at least patched 5 or 6 positions with guys we've developed, we're not going to go spend money on a right fielder or a left fielder or a center fielder. They're just not going to do that. But they felt that they had enough to justify going to get Sonny Gray, Trevor Bauer, Moustakas, and Castellanos to complement the likes of obviously Jesse Winker and Eugenio Suarez. And they felt they had enough there to be able, they felt they had a shortstop that was coming up through the system that ended up not working out. Of course, they felt that they had enough in the bullpen, that they had Iglesias as their closer. The Reds felt that in 2020, the reason they went all in, they felt they had enough boxes checked currently with what they had developed and what they currently had on the roster to justify going to spend the money. It makes no sense to spend money right now because you don't want to go buy. So going to get Francisco Lindor, knowing that you have Ella de la Cruz coming up and he's a couple years away. I don't want to marry Francisco Lindor for the next 10 years, who's an older player, when I can have this rookie hotshot coming up or this, prospect. Now that money I was going to spend on Francisco, now I can go maybe get another star starting pitcher. I think the Reds, with what they have with Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, and Graham Ashcraft, when the time is right, they'll probably go spend on another ace level pitcher. They'll probably spend a ton of money in the bullpen. They'll go get another bat to put out in the outfield. I think the Reds will be fine. Nick Krall, I have faith in. I know what Shaw's trying to say, but he's saying it happens so often that he can't even think of a name. That doesn't make any sense to me. I criticize the Reds, Shaw. You got to make sense with what you're criticizing him for, because nothing you said is actually what's wrong with the Cincinnati Reds, in my opinion. So
the fact of the matter is, you do it, I do it, every person listening does it. We think we can run a franchise better than the people that actually do run a franchise. And sometimes we're right, but most of the time we're wrong, because go look at your fantasy football team. Like,
yes, exactly.
That's just the reality, man. I think I'm the smartest person in the room a lot of the times, and I haven't won my fantasy football league in 5 years.
So, chat, yes, sports betting, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Sports betting humbles all of us. We don't know blank about sports, to be quite honest.
And so when I do win a sports bet, I'm super pumped because I finally got over the hump. It's a lot harder than it looks. It's a lot harder than it looks, man, because there's so many things that go into it. It's obviously, especially in basketball, I mean, you can't just put a whole bunch of superstars together. We saw that with the Nets. It's personalities you got to deal with. And then in baseball, I mean, there's so many games, there's injuries, you got to dabble in free agency. You are a small market team, all these different, it's just a lot that goes into it, man. So I can't point a finger at the Cincinnati Reds and say exactly what's wrong with them. But if I was going to do that, I would say it would probably be simple as player development. Like, it's kind of like that simple. I mean, we see so many small market teams that compete and that sneak their way into the playoffs. That's player development. I know that most of the best players on, like Tristan McKenzie, good pitcher for the Guardians. He's not gonna be with the team long term. I've seen this movie before. It's called CC Sabathia. That's as simple as that. I know he's going to stick around for probably maybe like 3 or 4 more years, and then eventually he'll be pitching for the Dodgers or the Yankees because they're going to offer him that bag, and we ain't got it.
CC Sabathia, Jim Thome, Kenny Lofton. Yeah. I mean, we've all seen this movie before.
So the windows, especially when you're a smaller team, is very small. The window for the New York Yankees is always open, but for the Dodgers, it's always open. But for the Guardians, for the Tampa Bay Rays, for the Reds, it's a smaller window now. So you gotta do the things the right way, and hopefully it works out for you. But hopefully it works out for my team before it works out for your team.
Exactly, I'm sure. But I remember when talking about this with Mark Schlemmer all the time back in the day. Rest in peace, my friend. By the way, he would always talk about the Yankees farm system versus the Reds farm system, where prospects in baseball, they hated being a prospect in the Yankees system because you're in the Yankee system, you know damn well you will never be called up to play for the Yankees.
Right.
You're in the system for the Reds. You loved playing in the Reds farm system because you knew that you were going to be you were carving a path to the main roster for the Cincinnati Reds.
Right.
And he talked about that all the time. Like the Yankees, they develop their prospects so they can trade you to go get the guys that they can afford to pay. Where the Reds have to develop prospects so that they can decide whether or not they have enough to pay them or not. Like, that is the difference there. By the way, Jake Whiting says, wrong, Kenner. We are all great sports bettors. The players and coaches just suck at games. So there's that.
I agree.
So Eric Lenski, what up, Eric? He goes, Encarnacion went to the American League so he could DH because he was awful in the field. Someone else said that Encarnacion, Edwin E. is who he was trying. So Chad Smith, he goes, Edwin E. is the one I think Shaw was trying to think of. Had he said that, I would have given that to him to a certain extent. But at the same time, like, sometimes players coming up through the farm system, they're coming up and they don't look like an elite star in the farm system until years and years later when you moved on from them nonetheless. But I agree. There is not. So it was Eric Lenski who really got me thinking of this. He goes, there is not one player that I could think of that the Reds have moved on from that outside of Cueto in the last 15 years that I'm like, oh man, they shouldn't have moved on from him. And Cueto, they moved on at the right time because they knew they couldn't afford to pay him. The Reds will never be a guy. By the way, he was going for top market, for top dollar in the market. The Reds will never pay a player top dollar. Joey Votto was a max contract, Kev, but that was not he was the richest first baseman in baseball. That was never going to be the case. So the difference is with Johnny Cueto, he was going to be the highest paid pitcher, one of the highest paid pitchers in baseball. The Reds cannot do that. That's the difference. And by the way, you don't need the elite of the elite to be a good baseball team. There's a reason the Nationals moved on from Bryce Harper and then won a World Series, because the money that they didn't spend on one player, they can spread throughout a couple players, and they added the depth, and they were able to go win a World Series. By the way, now Bryce Harper goes on to win a World Series this past year, of course, and that's fantastic. I'm not saying you can't win it there, but market by market is different. I know what Shaw's trying to say. He was just wrong in how he was piecing it all together. That's all. Like, that's just kind of where we're at. But I did miss that. I haven't argued with Shaw in a long time. I think the last time we argued was Ohio State, Michigan, and that was a couple of weeks ago, couple weeks, couple days. Nonetheless, Adam Duvall, Doug Toby, you know what? That's as close. If that's as close to one, that I'll give you that one. That was a weird one, though. Duvall showed power potential in Cincinnati, but no consistency. But that goes back to being on the development of the Reds. So that's fair. But Doug Toby, good one. I like that one. By the way, shout out to Doug Toby. I believe he went and got his taxes done at Arrowhead Tax Service with Michael Maxwell. Toby told him about the Bengals jersey that he dropped off here. That is still hanging up in the studio, by the way. So Doug, yes. But I heard from Michael Maxwell today that you had stopped in. So shout out to you, by the way. I'll give you Adam Duvall. I don't think that's elite, but he has won a World Series, of course. He's gone on to have success. So yes, that's one. But there have, to be fair though, there is not many players at the Reds. This idea that, can't wait for them to turn good so the Reds can just sell them off. There's not one player outside of Cueto and maybe Duvall that you could think of that they moved on from that you're like, damn it, they shouldn't have moved on from him. Jesse Winker was bad last year. So bad that the Mariners traded him. The Mariners gave up a lot to get him. And then they traded him a year later, not even a year later. So there's that. I wasn't meaning to go this long with this. We got the hurry up coming up around the corner. Jake Whiting says, y'all naming players that aren't that great, like Yonder Alonso, Adam Duvall. Y'all act like we let Bryce Harper's walk out the door. That I would 100%. Adam Duvall, though, that is a player that the Reds could have used in that outfield, that they could have afforded. That's the only. So Jake, based on the Reds, I guess who they are as an organization, Adam Duvall is a player they could afford, and he's a player that would be very effective in Cincinnati and was. But then he wasn't effective, which made it easy to move on from him, and then he took off when he left. So that's a player that I'm willing to give. But I know what you're saying, Jake. We have not let Bryce Harper's come through and watch him go. We have not let Manny Machado's come through and watch him go. All right, we haven't let any great player come through and just say, all right, see ya, we can't. Ellie De La Cruz, maybe that guy 4, 5, 6 years from now. Jonathan India, maybe that guy 4, 5, 6 years from now. But until then, right now, the Reds, they don't have a problem with letting superstars come to Cincinnati and leave. Their problem is they haven't developed anyone into superstars, and they haven't got superstars to come to Cincinnati. That's their problem, nonetheless. All right, Kenner and Cav with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Appreciate all of you. Shaw, even you. I enjoy the passion. I enjoy the back and forth because it's people like you that make the Reds season interesting, and by God, we're going to need it. All right, Kenner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio. Kev Nash brings us the hurry up next.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash.
Justin, you're awesome, baby.
Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
The forecast calling for scattered flurries in 21 tonight. We'll see sunshine in 47 for Saturday. And then Sunday, it's mostly sunny by the afternoon, breezy, a high of 53. I'm Rick Shrimp for 1410 ESPN Radio.
O'Reilly Auto Parts provides more than just the right parts for your repair. Our professional parts people can also offer free check engine light diagnosis. We can scan your vehicle and provide a list of possible fixes. Find the right parts for you or recommend a great local repair shop. Don't ignore your check engine light. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you can find options that fit your budget, because giving you options is the right thing to do.
Oh yeah, like when I hold the door for someone. Sure, it may be weird if I don't time it right and they're a little too far away and now they're running. And we're both asking ourselves, is it worth it to run instead of just, letting them open their own door?
But still, it's the right thing to do. So get options based on your needs with Progressive's Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
I thought learning a language would be too much work, but Babbel makes learning fun. J'aime Babel.
Babbel's lessons only take 10 or 15 minutes. And soon, you turn and realize, hey, I'm starting to speak another language. How'd that happen?
Babbel isn't robots talking. You learn words and phrases from real native speakers. I was ready for real-life conversations in just a few weeks. So easy.
Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
With one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. And with no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
There's still time to make 2023 your best professional year yet by enhancing your credentials at Ohio Dominican University. Ohio Dominican offers master's degrees like an MBA, professional certificates, and degree completion options, all 100% online.
I would not have been able to complete that degree without the flexibility of online learning. It was a great way for me to get the credentials that I needed to do what I'm doing now.
Spring class registration ends March 16th. Get started at ohiodominican.edu/online.
And now a small business setback, set to smooth jazz.
It's late. You're driving in the rain with only one thing on your mind. The deer about to total your HVAC van. But with Progressive's 30-plus customizable coverage options, you're covered. The rest is just saxophone.
When running your small business gets rough, Progressive Commercial is there to smooth it out. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Twinkly sound.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Coverage and discounts not available for all vehicles or states. Policy terms and conditions apply.
The Jeep Wrangler 4xE. It's electrified. So you can boogie woogie woogie up a mountain, over creeks, or boogie woogie woogie through a desert where you get bit by a pit viper. So you boogie woogie woogie back to camp and ask your friends if they'll suck the snake venom out. When they say no, you boogie woogie woogie to the nearest hospital for a dose of antivenom and boogie woogie woogie your way to a full recovery. The electrified Jeep Wrangler 4xE. Learn more at Jeep.com. Jeep is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.
I'll second guest dinners with friends because they can be interrupted by diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or oily stools. It turns out I have EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which means I'm missing the enzymes needed to digest food. My doctor prescribed Creon, pancrelipase, an oral prescription medication that replaces pancreatic digestive enzymes. Creon treats EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you're allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit creoninfo.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREONinfo.com.
Wendy's 2 for $6 is the best deal in fast food, featuring the Dave Single Spicy Chicken Sandwich, 10-piece crispy nugs, or a mini of strawberry lemonade. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's. 2 for $6.
Mayor.
That's a new beat. Where you get that one from?
I found it a little bit ago. Big Kev was in here. We found it a little bit ago.
Okay.
Kidder and Kev back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. It's the cap or no cap theme. I feel cooler. Just saying. All right. Kidder and Kev with you here on a Friday, 1410. We have a 3-day weekend coming up. No show on Monday. Just keep that in mind.
What you got planned?
Nothing. The wife is out of town for the weekend. So, I nothing planned. Nothing planned.
Aren't you the lucky one?
Dayton and Wright State both play tonight. So I guess the one play going to go to a sports bar, me and some friends, and we just sit there and we just live bet. We just drink, order a bunch of unhealthy food, lose money, spend a lot of money. Great stuff. Great stuff.
I have been involved in frugal February where I'm trying not to spend any money. As you know, I am a complete sneakerhead. This is a very difficult weekend for me. It's NBA All-Star Weekend for me. So that is normally when they release a whole bunch of shoes and everything like that. Thank goodness there's nothing that I desperately want. So I am trying to navigate this last stretch of February without spending any money. I didn't spend any money in January. Haven't spent any money in February. I'm trying to be more financially responsible. So it's a month-by-month situation.
I'm just trying to get more money.
Yeah.
So I can't be financially responsible. I don't have any financials to be responsible with. So there is that.
I know somebody you should talk to.
In about a month. By the way, it's crazy as we sit here. What is today? February 16th?
17th.
Oh, that's perfect. A month from today. Oh, the half K draft dash at Community Golf Course. I'm pretty jacked about this. Now, this is the first time we've done something like this, little WING, as well as with our other radio stations, of course. But Kev and I, we are spearheading this, and we need your help. We want to see all of y'all faces. I was going to say beautiful faces, but I've seen some of y'all faces. You see my face. There's not a whole lot of beauty. But you know what? That's why we're here to comfort one another. We want to see all of you. March 17th, Community Golf Course for the half K draft dash. All right. It's a grueling run. It's going to test the limits of even the most experienced runners. Actually, it's nothing like that at all. It's a half K. Okay. It's a half K draft dash. It's basically just an excuse for all of us to gather on St. Patty's Day morning, have just a beer. Okay. We're going to have one beer, just to kick things off. Breakfast buffet. You can have as many as you want. You're an adult, but the bosses will be there. I don't know if they'll look down on me if I start showing off of how many beers I can down in the morning, right? Wink, wink. But no, it's a great way. Look, everyone's going to have plans for St. Patty's Day, of course. I don't think many of you have plans for in the morning. Okay, this is a 10 a.m. event. Registration, or you start checking in at 9 o'clock. Again, it's a half K draft dash after the little run. Wink, wink. Where there's a breakfast buffet, of course. We're gonna have a beer. Then lots of cool prizes. You'll have a chance to win, like Taylor Swift tickets.
Yes, sir.
Who else? We have Blake Shelton. I know we got Reds and Blue Jackets tickets. Yep. I see Cat Williams and some other ones.
Bonefish Grill card.
Yep. So there's plenty of prizes, and it's just a great way to, again, get your friends to register with you and just kick it off. You have plans in the afternoon. We know there's a lot of cool stuff going on in the afternoon, but kick it off in the morning with us. Half K draft dash. So we're pretty jacked about that. March 17th, and you can register at wingam.com.
And don't forget to dress in all green. And we got prizes for first and last place. So if you're, fancy and trying to win, you'll get a prize. But if you're, like a snail's pace and lose, you still get a prize. And portion of the proceeds go to Big Brothers Big Sisters of Miami Valley.
So pretty cool event, and we need your help. We want to see you guys all there. We want to hang out with you guys that Friday morning. March 17th, Community Golf Course. One more time, it's the half K draft dash. So register at wingam.com. All right, Justin Kenner, Kev Nash with you here. Last responses from people regarding the Cincinnati Reds, and we're going to move on to the hurry up. But Jeff McPheron, he says, never thought I'd say this, but Kev, he goes, that was a great call from Shaw.
Wow, look at Shaw.
Shaw's burner account. Very nice. Says it's going to be a long summer listening to the defending of this pathetic franchise. Let's talk Dragons until September. We will be talking Dragons. We'll be having the voice of the Dragons, Tom Nichols, on with us here very shortly, as that season, of course, not too far off in the distance as well. So we will talk Dragons. That is not a problem. I'm actually I can't wait to be sitting at Day Air Ballpark. That means it's baseball season. It's warm outside, not the garbage that we felt today. I don't
snow today.
Yeah,
it was
snow
65
and rain.
degrees earlier this week.
I wore shorts all week. So there's that. I take advantage of the shorts weather. No, and Jeff, that's fine that you feel that way. But listening to the defending, I don't think I'm really defending them. I'm talking about the facts. The facts. Top 5 farm system in baseball. They every player I'm highlighting and talking about how you're not excited about Tyler Stephenson, Jonathan India, Nick Lodolo, and Hunter Green and Graham Ashcraft and Lucas Sims and all the guys that they have in the bullpen. I don't understand. And the development of Ellie De La Cruz. Have you looked at the headlines surrounding this kid, the player comps, the type of prospect that he is coming in? Think about like when the Bryce Harpers and those guys. I know his come up is different than the Harpers of the world, but the hype around this kid is unlike anything we've seen in quite some time for a prospect coming through. And the Reds are fortunate to have him. So all I'm trying to combat your negativity with is just a little bit of reality. And the reality is that you're letting the whole big picture of Reds past haunt you and keep you from being able to enjoy what Nick Krall is doing. You don't want to be believers in the Castellinis. Don't be. That's fine. All right. I'm not telling you to be or not to be. However, what I am telling you is Nick Krall, the Reds general manager, he's making a lot of friends around Major League Baseball. And the reason I know this is because his name's being thrown out there for if this rebuild goes really well, he'll be on the first plane out of Cincinnati taking a much bigger job somewhere else. And that shows you the trajectory of him and the job that he's doing currently. Of course, the results have to match that. We'll see what happens this coming up season. That's for sure. So, okay. Kenner and Cab with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Earlier in the show, of course, we did our cap or no cap. I appreciate all the interaction as far as that's concerned. But I do cap or we do cap or no cap, but we also do the hurry up. Kev Nash brings us the hurry up.
I wish you had more time. Well, we better hurry it up then. The hurry up.
All right, Kev Nash, the hurry up.
All right. In women's college hoops, number 1 South Carolina handed number 3 LSU their first loss of the season in dominating fashion on Super Bowl Sunday, 88-64.
Now, you're probably wondering, okay, why are you bringing something up on Friday that happened so long ago? We've been meaning to touch on this the last couple of days, but the reason this was significant, that this was the most watched regular season women's college basketball game in over a decade. 2010 was the last time that over 1 million viewers tuned in for a women's college basketball game. Dawn Staley is a badass. LSU and what they have going on over there is pretty dang cool. And I think it's the reason we're highlighting this is because of the local flair with Bree Hall. Bree Hall is right there in the midst of it all. And so watching her play for Dawn Staley, I know we had her on the show last year. We had Bree on the show right before their Final Four and their national championship game last year. And just hearing her talk about, the experience of playing for Dawn and just how Dawn Staley just demands and owns the room. I mean, she said she went on that she didn't go on many college visits because that was during COVID at the time. But not making it about female coaches versus male coaches, but she said there wasn't a male coach out there that she talked to that dominated and owned the room the way Dawn Staley did. I love Dawn Staley. So I think this is pretty cool. But yes, LSU and South Carolina, that game from last weekend, it drew 1.5 million viewers. It's the most watched game since 2010.
That is so cool. But the one thing that I took away from the game was obviously watching Bree Hall, but also Zia Cook, who's from Toledo. And all I could think was, how did they get out of the state of Ohio? I know the Lady Buckeyes are real good at basketball, but that's all I could think was like, they should be playing for the Buckeyes.
Yes. It's like good. The hurry up. Story number 2.
All right. Former Michigan quarterback Chad Henne retired from the NFL after the Chiefs won the Super Bowl on Sunday. In his 15-year career, he made over $40 million, and he has the same amount of Super Bowl rings as John Elway, Peyton Manning, Bart Starr, and Roger Staubach. My question for you, Kenner, is the backup quarterback a top 5 job in sports?
First of all, legend, right? The Brown, he crushed the Browns. He is the reason that Baker Mayfield never got a chance to play in the AFC. Can you imagine Baker Mayfield and the Browns in the AFC Championship game? Chad Henne kept that from happening. But good for him. That's one hell of a career. And, yes, there is nothing wrong. Who was it? I just saw a quote from talking about that the backup, being a backup quarterback in the NFL is the best job in the world. Because for one, you're a quarterback in the National Football League and you are paid a lot of money to be the backup quarterback. You're rarely called upon, but when you do, you have a chance to be a hero.
Yeah.
You have
and he did it twice.
Yes.
He did it twice in the playoffs.
Yeah. And he played a huge role. By the way, they don't win the Super Bowl this year. They don't even get to the Super Bowl this year. if he doesn't go on that touchdown drive. I mean, he led them on that
90-plus
98 yard.
Yeah.
It was a 98-yarder, 98-yard touchdown drive. Some passes, some handoffs, didn't matter. He played a role in that. That was huge. That gave Patrick Mahomes enough time. They could have been 3 and out, punted it. That would have given Jacksonville the ball in very good field position. They could have extended that lead and pulled away. So what a career. But yes, the backup quarterback position in football, you know, we say things all the time like, oh, he's a backup at best. Well, backup at best is still a pretty damn good job. And Jacoby Brissett is a prime example of that, as is Chad Henne and all the guys we talked about.
I would even stretch that further. I would love to be a backup of a legendary quarterback. I'm never going to play.
Especially guys that don't get hurt or play hurt.
Yeah,
so.
like whoever was backing up Peyton Manning with the Colts all those years, just racked up this money, be able to go to the mall unannounced. Nobody knows who you are. You just undercover all the time. Great career for Chad Henne.
Not bad. Not bad.
All right,
Next
number
up.
3, we got NBA Commissioner Adam Silver says NBA officials are disciplined for making errors. Silver told ESPN, "We don't publicize the discipline for our officials. We do not think it's appropriate." Fair or foul?
I am so torn on this because we blame officials for everything. I mean, we talked about this earlier in the week coming out of the Super Bowl. I went on did the news hit and everything this week. I got ripped for because I'm taking the opposite side just to get a reaction. No, you can ask Kev. This is genuinely my take. We are way too hard on officials because what we want is something that will never be attained, and that is consistency and all this stuff. Or maybe it can be attained, but not with the way that the setup is now with having all these different officials all over the place. However, I'm at the point now where I am not a fan of – I don't think that the league needs to always talk about how – because I think if you're going to punish an official every time they have a bad game, however they justify what a bad game is, if they're being punished all the time or fined all the time, we're going to be saying, well, man, that official gets fined all the time. That official gets suspended all the time. Man, that's a really bad official. I don't think that they need to publicize that. I don't even think he needed to have said that. I actually like that they keep the officials away from I know you want transparency and stuff, but sometimes I think that's only going to make it worse. There's nothing that an official can say in a press conference or addressing the media that is going to make us say, you know what, you're right. Because look what happened in the Super Bowl, by the way. That is holding. He's grabbing his jersey. He's pulling on it. The official would have said, we are trained the second we see a pull that we throw our flag. And what do? Well, you don't call that there. We're always going to move the goalpost. To me, I mean, good for them for saying that they do punish the officials, but I like that they don't put it out there because all we would do is every game is
That's
a conspiracy.
not enough.
It's not enough. All this stuff. I don't know. I don't think there's a right solution out there, but I like that they don't throw them under the bus publicly, if you will.
I like that as well. I'm going to say it's fair because you don't want to throw your employees underneath the bus. Unlike the NFL, the NBA referees are employees of the NBA. And then also, I'll go a step further. I say they even do away with the 2-minute report. The 2-minute report is if you're a gambler and you see the 2-minute report on a bad call, all it makes you think is like, well, I would have won this bet. And then you just sitting there and but I didn't because of a blown call. I would even say do away with that. It just creates more negative energy from the fans.
Imagine in marriage if you had to do a 2-minute report. I mean, eventually you just apologize. It just doesn't matter anymore. You always say sorry. You don't mean it. That's what we do with these 2-minute reports. In the NBA, they come out and say, oh, you know what? You're right. That was a foul. Has that ever made anyone feel better?
No.
When the NFL comes out and says, oh, the league has released a statement saying that in the Bengals game that actually was a hold and that the officials are sorry. Well, what do we get out of that? Nothing. Do we get the win? No. Are you taking them out of the Super Bowl? No. Are you giving us the Super Bowl win this year? No. So what the hell's the purpose of the apology? It doesn't do anything. Just get rid of it. The NFL, NBA, same thing.
All right, number 4. For the first time in more than 20 years, Alabama's men's basketball team is atop of the Associated Press top 25. Is Alabama a basketball? I couldn't even say it without laughing. Is Alabama a basketball school? No, I know the answer to that.
Well, for one, I think the weirdest mindset out there is, and I understand what people are trying to say when they say this. Oh, they're a football school. They're a basketball school. But I love when teams like Alabama prove that they could put a number 1 team in the country out on the hardwood. I know they lost the other night against Tennessee. I lost money on them, by the way. But you look at the teams that are at the top right now. I mean, Alabama, Houston, Purdue. You have your UCLAs and your Kansases and Texas, of course. But, you're going down Marquette, Kansas State, your Miamis, your Xaviers, your St. Mary's, your Creightons. I mean, basketball is just wide the blank open right now, and it's pretty exciting. So it doesn't surprise me that Alabama's there at the top, but I think it is good because I get tired of the notion that, well, they're a football school, so they can't be good at basketball. I think NIL is going to make that more of a prominent statement as far as any resources to fund a team.
Right.
They're not going to go spend all their money on a center for the basketball team when that can go help get them a couple more defensive backs or something for the football team. Like, I'm wondering if that's already being discussed as conflict within some of these collectives. But for the time being, I do like that. I do think in college basketball, look at Ohio State right now. One thing I get annoyed with, another bad performance. By the way, they were playing great last night. Sean McNeil played at Sinclair. He came out.
He didn't miss a shot.
He was just on fire to start. It was 35 all or 36-35. I was great. I was cheering for him. I'm talking with friends. I look over. I'm like, what the hell? They're down 10. And they were down 20. And then it just went downhill from there. But how do you fix that team? If NIL is the way to fix it, and they're already struggling with NIL to fix to keep the football team rolling, they're not going to waste resources on the basketball team. So we might see that transition to being a legitimate football versus basketball school as far as how funding is kind of spread around. But good for Alabama for showing that you could be an elite basketball and football program at the same time.
I'll say this about the collectives and the NIL. You get more money in the collective when you win. It's as simple as that. If you have a winning program on the hardwood, you'll get more money. If you have a winning program on the football field, you'll get more money. So my whole thing is win games and you'll get as much money as you need.
That's all you can do. Next up.
All right, last one. The Saints are a team to watch for a destination for Rams free agent quarterback Baker Mayfield, according to Adam Breer. Is this a good fit for one Baker Mayfield?
I started looking around the NFL as far as teams that are good fits for Baker Mayfield. The Titans are a team that are quietly trying to find a way to potentially get Aaron Rodgers. Look out for that team to be involved. Obviously the Jets. But Baker could potentially end up. I think Baker in Tennessee is kind of intriguing to me. I know people will get to the Saints in a moment, but Tennessee is interesting to me, but they don't have a lot of weapons at wide receiver anymore, so I don't think he would flourish there. Interesting with the Jets, but I think that there's no way. The only way Baker ends up with the Jets is if the Jets, who have met with Derek Carr today, decide to say, we're not going to move forward with Derek Carr this moment because we got to hold out and wait to see what Aaron Rodgers does. And while waiting for Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr signs somewhere else. And then Aaron Rodgers does not get dealt. Now the Jets are sitting here with their hands open. Like, what do we do? I could see Baker going to the Jets with those weapons and maybe seeing if something could work there. But I do think that the safest spot for Baker Mayfield is in the NFC, especially in the NFC South, and especially with the Saints. Who knows what the future of Alvin Kamara is, but the running back position is something that you can salvage and you could, find a replacement for pretty quickly. But Michael Thomas, potentially Jarvis Landry, they're going to have some, they have some good weapons, Kev. I like the Saints. That could be a very good spot for Baker Mayfield. Keep an eye on a couple of those situations there. But the Seahawks, that's another team to circle. Baker Mayfield in Seattle could be a go-to as well. Even if Seattle drafts a quarterback at number 5, it wouldn't surprise me if they bring Baker in for that, if they do decide to move on from Geno. So we'll see what happens there.
You know what? I like the Saints. You brought up Michael Thomas, but who I'm more excited about is obviously Chris Olave.
Yep.
But for me, I'm still of the mindset of once Jalen Ramsey is cut, once Aaron Donald decides to retire or is cut, that Matthew Stafford is going to be one of those other veteran quarterbacks out there looking for a new home because he's not going to want to be a part of a quote-unquote rebuild situation. And I think that Baker Mayfield is perfect for the Rams, and being teamed up with McVay, again, another good offensive play caller, can really revitalize his career. So I think he's ultimately going to stay with the Rams.
Yeah, and again, Stafford has come out and said he is coming back. He's not retiring. So Baker, does he want to be a backup?
Right.
And maybe if you don't trust the health of Stafford, you still might want to hang around and all that stuff too. So it just depends where, Baker wants to go in and potentially be a starter. The Commanders, keep an eye out for them too. He can go be a starter over there. Potentially for Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy had a second meeting with the Commanders today, and according to all reports, sounds like that's going to be the thing. Bieniemy moving on up, being promoted from offensive coordinator to offensive coordinator.
Wow.
So, just moving on up those rankings. Good for him, dude. My Lord. I mean, that's how you move up the ranks right there. Just
Goodness gracious.
You go be the coordinator for a worse team than the legendary dynasty that is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Keep moving the goalposts.
nonetheless. But to be fair, like he's going to be he is the face right now of the diversity issues within coaching and football. And I completely get that. But we have had multiple guests on that have given us the reasons as to why he's not landing a job. Now, those could be smokescreen BS reasons as to why they're saying that. Who knows? But it is interesting. I mean, who just got hired as the offensive coordinator? They just took some no name from the Seahawks. Who just hired a coordinator that no one's ever heard of before? I'm so sorry. This is bad sports talk.
To the Seahawks?
No, the Seahawks had some guy in their staff that no one even knew who he was that took over for the Colts as their offensive coordinator or somebody. They haven't even heard of him before. So,
I must have missed that.
Nonetheless.
I must have missed that. My whole thing about Eric Bieniemy is we all know how this is going to play out. He's going to go to the Commanders. He's not going to score 35 points a game because, wow, he doesn't have Travis Kelce and one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And he's not going to get a head coaching job for that reason. And then they'll have another excuse because everything like, oh, he has a bad attitude or whatever the case may be. He does bad in interviews. And, oh, look, see, now that he doesn't have those guys. Now he isn't under Andy Reid. He's not a great offense coordinator anymore. So we know how this is going to play out. If I'm him, I'm staying in Kansas City.
I wouldn't leave Kansas City either. But when you hear the reasons why he's not, like we had Jason Fitz on, we had the reporter from Kansas City, talked about some of the things that happened in his past.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sounds like there are, people, the only thing I get frustrated with is, well, why doesn't he have a job? Well, we hear why he doesn't have a job, but I feel like at times it's, well, we don't like that. We don't like the reasons. So we're just going to ignore those reasons.
Mm-hmm.
How, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a factor are those reasons? Because I'm not defending NFL owners by any means, but at the same time, they're taking chances on people all over the place. Majority of them look a lot like me, by the way. Especially, I mean,
what I'll say is the stuff that he got into in college when he was 19 years old is still being held against him, and he's like 45 years old. But he's good enough to be hired as your OC. He's good enough to be hired as an assistant coach at several different stops.
Interview skills. Your thoughts on that? No, and by the way, I'm not doing this like
that is 100% legit. I have no problem with that. But for me, I'll bring this to Eric Bieniemy on his side. All right, if you've heard that you're not interviewing well, what are you doing leading up to these new opportunities in the interview process?
Are you doing some workshops? Like
exactly.
Like we're laughing, but not like at the same time.
Are you doing mock interviews? Is your agent helping you do mock interviews? Are the Kansas City Chiefs helping you do mock interviews with their GM to help you be more prepared? Because let's be real, everybody listening to the show right now has gone on the interview and has bombed an interview. And they had to do that, take it back to the old school days of presenting themselves in the mirror and looking people in the eye, and you practice doing interviews and things of that nature. So if he is doing that badly in interviews, those are the things that I would suggest he do. Take it all the way back to the old school days. Look yourself in the mirror. Talk to yourself to try to be more comfortable, because we see other people out there. I mean, Sirianni's great with the Eagles now, but that press conference was bad. I mean, what was the guy with that? He looked like he was high as a kite.
Adam Gase.
Like, you telling me these dudes balled out in the interview? They may have balled out in the interview and just froze up in front of the press and everything like that. But that's what I would tell Eric Bieniemy. Like, if that truly is the holdup, then what are we doing to make sure that's not a holdup anymore?
Yeah, it's just such an odd story, because this is like every year. This is like the third. I mean, the Bengals. Zach Taylor, how many years has he been here? Year 4 or 5?
4.
So this Eric Bieniemy thing's been going on for 4 years now. Like, Eric Bieniemy was one of the finalists to get the Bengals job. That was one of that many felt that's where that was going. He could potentially Mike McCarthy. There were some weird names that at the time I was like, the Browns. Actually, Mike McCarthy was for the Browns. That was the rumor name for the Browns before Stefanski or whatever. But the point is we've been doing this Bieniemy thing for 4 years now. So. And again, I think he is like kind of the face of the diversity issues with it. It's like every year, like what else we see guys who are quarterback coaches who have never called plays in their life, but because they're the quarterback's coach on the team that's elite offensively, well, they have to have retained some of that. Eric Bieniemy, he's the guy. Like, that's what's wild about that. So it's like, to me, I'm not making excuses for ownership, but there has to be something more tangible than just what we're chalking it up to as far as it just being the race thing. But we have seen guys given the benefit of the doubt,
right? Because
for other situations.
Because before it was like, well, he's not the head play caller, but Matt Nagy wasn't the head play caller. He got a job. Doug Peterson wasn't the head play caller. He got a job. So then it transitioned to something else.
Zach Taylor, same thing. Yeah. I mean, he was the quarterback coach.
So it keeps switching. And I mean, specifically those guys, because they were coached under Andy Reid. You know, they were his OCs under Andy Reid, and they still got jobs. So like, that's what I talk about, the whole moving of the goalpost thing. So now this time he's a bad interviewer, or the next time is oh man, that thing from college, man, it's Rory's ugly head again. It's like, well, man, that was in 1989, bro.
I mean, it's a great year though. I was born that year.
My goodness gracious.
All right, folks, Kinder and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio, hour 3 next.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.
Men, women, and young adults can find health wellness services at odh.ohio.gov/RHWP. Connect with a health provider to receive services like screenings for healthy weight, cancer, smoking cessation assistance, as well as other health services. Visit odh.ohio.gov/RHWP to find and connect with a location near you to schedule your in-person or telehealth visit today.
At the Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission, we help veterans and their dependents navigate the process of applying for benefits administered by the VA. We can assist with VA claims, pensions, and a variety of benefits, including emergency financial assistance, transportation, and legal services. If you are a veteran or a spouse of a veteran, a wide range of services may be available to you, always at no cost to the veteran. We are honored and proud to serve all Miami Valley veterans. Contact us today at 937-225-4801.
A new year and a new career. KTH Parts Industries has immediate openings. Second shift production associates and equipment technicians. Material handling experience is a plus. This is an excellent new opportunity that offers an attractive benefit package, medical, dental, 401k, attendance bonus, and a new competitive wage starting at $19.83 per hour with annual increases. KTH is hosting open interviews Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. through 3 p.m. Visit kth.net. KTH is an equal opportunity employer.
The all-new Chevrolet of Troy is now open. What are the advantages of shopping at Chevrolet of Troy? Selection has never been better, with over 300 new and pre-owned vehicles available. We always accept employee and supplier pricing, and we make financing easy. Customer service is our top priority. We care about you, with thousands off MSRP, a full-service state-of-the-art dealership, and huge selection. Make Chevrolet of Troy your first stop today. 1375 South Market Street, and online at ChevroletofTroy.com.
Race to savings at Menards. Get the best quality Dutch Boy paints at the best prices. Pick out the perfect color of Platinum Plus Interior Plat paint. It's a quality one-coat paint and primer in one, saving you valuable time. Just $44.89 a gallon. Complete the project with a great deal on Quick Solutions 2-inch trim brushes and 3/8 nap roller covers. Just $1.99 each. Race to savings on your paint project. Good through February 18th.
Save big money at Menards.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
It's really happening. Kentucky Fried Chicken Wraps